Hello, everybody, and welcome back to that Milan podcast. Martino Cuccio, Matt Santangelo, and a special returning guest, Enrico Silvestrin. And look, I nailed it, perfect. So we're happy to have Enrico back. Happy with Matt once again as well. An off day where we will have plenty of time to discuss many things regarding Milan today, guys. Just before we introduce everybody and say hello. We just like to say thank you so much for the support. Subscribe and follow the channel here at that Milan podcast. If you're new coming from Enrico's channel, or if you're returning to see us once again from Enrico's channel from the last time we spoke, welcome back. Hello, and
thank you.
Stay and join us. And
thank you, guys.
Again, same thing as well with Matt and us. Just follow and subscribe our channel here. And again, just a little quick shout out to Alex Dorazio, who made our new logo that we have up there in the top right, who it is next to Enrico. So we appreciate your work that you put in there. We finally have a real logo instead of, I don't even remember where I got the last one last time. I think that was just Spotify just generated one for us, and we just took it.
AI generated it.
So now we have this. So to launch off the new branding, we are bringing back one of our favorite guests, and that is Enrico. So Enrico, how are you?
Thank you. I'm fine, man. I just realized I have the least Italian last name of us all. You get.
I know,
like
yeah.
proper,
It is very rare to find a non-vowel last name. The only other ones I know of is like Buffon, and
if you go to Veneto, like near Verona or Belluno or Treviso, then you'll get a lot of them. They got this laziness about the last vowel. I don't know why.
I mean,
we're not going to discuss that. Anyway, the logo is neat. I like it.
Thank you. So shout out to Alex. You could see that on our Twitter page, our Instagram page. We shouted him out. So I just want to thank him once again. And Santangelo is also here. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Would have liked to see a couple more deals come to fruition by the time we got Enrico on, but obviously still a lot to unpack. Things that are basically spilling over from the past season that are coming into this summer, which is hopefully going to be a big summer for us.
Yeah. So really today isn't going to be very similar to past episodes that we do. And usually if you're here on the channel watching, it's very topical information regarding current topics regarding the transfer market or managerial hires, sporting director hires, all of which has changed so much since the last time that we spoke to Enrico about everything. It was a couple months ago, and basically we were talking about where Milan would be at this point in time. Start of the new season, end of June. A lot has happened in terms of personnel with managerial stuff. There is a sporting director finally. And just the overall situation regarding the club and where they're going. It's been finalized that they finished at the outside of European play. Milan are going to be playing once a week. It was by far the most disastrous season that we've seen in a very long time. I would venture to say, and I've said it many times, this was the most pathetic and disappointing season of the 21st century for Milan. And yes, that includes the Banta era teams. Enrico, we'll start with that in terms of how that season ended. And I know we spoke, I think the last time before, like this week or so, was the Coppa Italia final, and how you were under the ideology of it doesn't matter what happens, win or lose. Ownership is still here. It's disgusting, and it's still a failure of a season and project. I know that definitely has not changed. But for you, in terms of the failure of this season, I know you could still be disappointed even if your expectations were low. What was your sort of reaction again when it was finalized? Like, there's no European play. They didn't win the Coppa Italia. The only thing that you could take away, and no one really even wants to take away from it anymore, is winning the Supercoppa over Inter. What is your reaction and the reaction of many Milanisti out there, which we kind of saw what happened on the final match day against Monza?
I mean, I have a bit of a special kind of reaction. So I know that many AC Milan fans, they don't identify with me or with my reactions, because I try to stay lucid and keep my mind clear, and keep my emotions out of the picture. which I think helps when you have to move a critique, when you have to analyze things. You have to be, stone cold. And I felt like we were going to face sliding doors, whether we won the cup or whether we lost the cup. If we won the cup, we would have been in a much different situation right now. All the people protesting outside of Casa Milan wouldn't have been there. It would have been much different. The understanding of the, just taking a look at the picture, understanding what you're looking at. They wouldn't have a completely different vision. We would have had Conceição right now, I believe. We would have had the team that would have praised the season and call it some minor mishaps, which is, it's impossible to take. So it's one of the main issues we have is with the tifosi and how volatile is the opinion on this whole analyzing the AC Milan structure and ownership right now. So it doesn't take much to reignite, to refuel the machine of support. And I don't support them, and I'm not going to support this ownership, no matter what they do. I mean, unless they really change. But why would they change?
Yeah.
But how could they change? I mean, nobody paid for the season we just had. Nobody. They're all there at the same place. There's no accountability. So, I mean, Maldini paid for way less than this.
Yes.
So, once you, I mean, it's a matter of understanding the logic behind this.
Yep.
And if you think of sport logics, if you think of performance logic, then this has got nothing. You would never. You're
correct, because what you're getting at, Matt, maybe you agree with it. There was a precedent set by ownership and Forlani himself, right? Because he's not going to sack himself. That basically said Paolo Maldini was fired because, and we all know what they said up front. You did terrible in the market. You weren't selling players. You were losing players for free. You didn't properly reinvest. We can't just keep giving you capital and expect you to challenge. They essentially, in a roundabout bullshit way, blamed him. And sure, he was not perfect. I think everyone knows Maldini was not a perfect director. There were things that he did that was wrong and a poor job. But overall, he was too good at what he was doing and building that it warranted a sacking after one summer. Where we have now, to your point, seen 2 summers in a row, guys, where it's been absolutely disastrous. There's been no plan. They've gone through 3 managers within the span of 12 months, and no one paid. 3 managers in 12 months is more than anything in Maldini's tenure.
Martino, it's everything and the opposite of everything. They didn't want a managerial manager, coach, and then there you go. You have Allegri. And the year before, Fonseca, Pioli was given, full managerial, availability.
Autonomy,
it was a one-man show. Then at the same time, we want Italian players. Are they going for Italian players? Not at all. Not at all. Ricci is not an option anymore. They just parked him in the bench. They're just going. They're going for Xhaka. Then it's all. It's basically what comes to use.
I mean,
for them.
Xerxes was a guaranteed signing last summer, right? Remember? Yeah. Oh yes, we'll pay the release clause. It's not a problem. Oh, okay, so Milan's gonna up to 40 million, and then which is the most infuriating thing, Matt. They act surprised when there's agent commissions involved for deals. They're like, oh, we didn't think that they would ask for money. Did you? Or did you know this all along? So I guess your thoughts, man, on like just what Enrico's getting at is like there's rules for thee, not for me when it comes to Furlani. Maldini was held to a different standard than whatever Furlani, Scaroni, whoever you want to point the finger at, right? We all know who it is. It's Furlani at the end of the day, making the day-to-day decisions. He said that after Zlatan had mentioned that he called the shots, which is a totally different conversation. But your kind of thoughts on that too. I mean, there's so much, but go.
Sure. So, I mean, I think when you're talking about past regime, current regime, I think the one thing that we can both or all of us agree on is neither regime was perfect. They didn't get every single signing correct. Sporting wise, the results weren't where we should have been aiming after, that construction of a, first a Champions League team that can compete regularly in the competition, and then eventually moving towards the Scudetto, which we achieved, is we at least had a body of work, a definitive and substantial sample size in what Maldini and Mazzara and Gazidis and those guys brought. In that, okay, we've seen this regime build a winner. We saw what we did in the Scudetto winning season. You got guys like Kalulu that were launched for $500K. A player that really didn't have any first-team appearances at Lyon prior to coming over. He became a regular first-team player that obviously eventually was sold to Juventus for not a lot of money relative to what he's able to do and what the market suggests he's worth, right?
To a rival.
That's one instance. But in the faults that Maldini and Mazzara had in that one market that I think to me defined their end of their career and cost them their job, was at least I can say with a clear conscience that if you gave me two bodies of work, you gave me management A, management B, and hey, management A, they maybe had some flops on the market, but they have a Scudetto to their name. I've seen them build a winner. I've seen them have good markets. I've seen them bring in the right personality that beyond just being able to have the quality to perform, that have the mentality, that have the head, the mindset to play at Milan. Because we all know this. We've seen it at Atalanta with Tecatellare going there. We've seen players that struggled at Milan, go somewhere else, and for whatever reason, they perform. There's two sides to a transfer. There's two sides to acquisitions. And I think what I looked at with the past regime was at least I've seen these individuals in charge, maybe not perfect, but I can at least say they've went on the market, built a team that has been able to compete and win a title. This current regime has not done that. They've only regressed. And that, in my opinion, my view, that first year with Furlani where, they brought in new players and they finished, what was it, second last year, not this past year, the year before, right?
Yep.
That was the worst thing, in my opinion, that could have happened to the Milan. Because I think what it gave the fan base, it gave ownership, especially Jerry, who is very naive to the handlings, inner workings of building a team in Italy versus the Premier League, for example, which everyone in America knows the Premier League is the big juggernaut of world football. They know they bring the most money. Teams that finish historically lower in the table bring in more revenues because of TV deals, amongst other things, than the teams that finished in the Champions League spots in Serie A. So it's easy to walk into the Premier League and build a team and have them compete in no time. That's one part of it. I think the worst thing that could have happened was finishing as high as they did last year, in my opinion. I will never, until the day I die, root for this team to lose. I will never do that. I will never be that type of fan. And I know there are many people in this fan base that were almost hoping Milan would lose games so they didn't have to play in the Europa League Conference, which is, to me, silly. And losing doesn't help problems, in my opinion. But it almost, in a way, framed this Milan in the view and through the lens of management as, oh, we finished second place. Like, this is a great Inter team. We're fine.
I know, which was
it had to get so historically bad because that's what this past season was.
Yeah.
The worst finish in decades, for Milan and management to be like, okay, now we actually do need to get a pretty serious manager. Now we know we have to go potentially buy not one, but 2 expensive strikers in the span of 6 months. Now we actually have to spend money. Of course, it comes at the cost of Tijani Reinders, but you get the point. So it's interesting because year one, I think we all can agree. We were like, all right, we didn't agree with Maldini getting canned. We didn't agree with Mazzara getting let go. But at the end of the day, like, we have to see what this management, we have nothing to go by. If they come in here and they blow the doors off the team and we're competing regularly for Scudetto, people are going to be like, no disrespect to Maldini, but like, he, as my dog's in the background wanted to comment on this, we can at least say like, okay, fine, they got people in here that are competent and know what they're doing. We clearly see that's not the case. We clearly see they're willing to go and do the unpopular thing and sell top players and then tell us days later through our very faces, we don't need to make sacrifices. We don't need to sell big players. Well, they're doing everything in their power right now to do things very unpopular. And I think that what you saw towards the end of last season, the booing in the Monza game, the whistles, all those sorts of things, I truthfully think they're so dense that still won't get through to them, and they'll still continue to repeat the same mistakes. To Enrico's point, as long as they're there, and as long as we're struggling and we're suffering, and even if they make the one good signing, or everyone's always going to approach every decision they make with a little bit of doubt and pessimism because their track record shows they really don't know what they're doing and they don't know how to build a team to win.
Yeah. On this subject, they sold us a vision, they sold us a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, to be sustainable and use the money of the, everything they made financially, that was a good income, use it on the market to buy players. And they didn't do that. That's another thing that...
Where did the record revenue go? Is the right?
Exactly. I mean, they're the only ones making money. And the point is, like, you see a lot of fans thinking or reasoning like this, saying, well, we sold Tijani for 50 mil. We sold Tijani for 60 mil. No, you didn't make a penny out of it. Mm-hmm. They sold them. I mean, you wouldn't have sold them. And they said they didn't need to. And so when you see people behaving erratically, then you have to figure out why it's happening. Mm-hmm. So why are they behaving erratically, or are they behaving erratically? I don't think they are. I mean, they are in a in a football, in a football sense. But they're not financially. They're just doing what they do. They don't care about football. They sell because it's what they want to do. It's the easy way to make money. It's their whole plan is to buy players who don't cost much, who cost 20 mil tops, and then sell them, resell them at 40, at 50. It doesn't go like this all the time. It doesn't go well all the time.
It only happened once.
Yeah, it only happens.
They got a low price on the player too.
Yeah, but that's because they're not good at it. That's why they hire Theyve now. That's why they hire a pro for this. But basically, what Theyve is doing, Theyve is not free to operate the way he wants. I mean, it's not building a team to win. It's not building.
And that was the concern, Enrico, right? Like me and Martino talked about it too in the whole build-up to the appointment of the director first, which is the first domino to fall, followed by the manager, was Theyve. We were mixed on, and we had our kind of feelings towards, what he did at Lazio and what some of the hypothetical rumors and players that would come in would be under him. And same thing, Allegri. It's like, okay, that's all great. Like in a vacuum, Allegri has accomplished a lot. He's won in this league with multiple clubs. Theyve has built a pretty good track record, at least at Lazio, in relative to what their expectations were, but also the budgetary constraints they typically had to operate within under Lotito. We were saying that was all fine and well, but are these two individuals going to still have the autonomy and freedom to do their jobs, or is it going to have to continue to go through Furlani, and is he going to shoot everything down? Because that's what we saw even under Maldini and Mazzara, right? Where people like to save Maldini and Mazzara and say things about them. But how many times did we have to go through these hoops, guys, where it was January or it was the summer market and everyone was like, okay, we really need to get a central defender. Like, we need a difference maker, or we need a midfielder. And we had to nickel and dime, and everything was, oh, Milan's agreed on personal terms. They couldn't agree on a fee because this management or ownership couldn't cough up more money and support and back the manager, the director. So at the end of the day, it's great to have an Allegri in there who, again, serial winners, won everything, or Theyve. But if we're going to still have the ultimate shot callers and those that make the final say infringe upon everything in their work, what really good is it? Because you see, I mean, jokingly, guys, like, I don't know if you've seen it, but like the clips of Theyve, like walking around Milan, like, oh yeah, after the meeting at Casa Milan, the guy looks already defeated already. He looks exhausted. The way he's walking, he looks like he's like, man, like, I don't know what I got myself into here. That's what it feels like so far.
I mean, that's the job, that's the assignment he has. I mean, it's what they asked him to do, and he wasn't even their first choice.
No.
Yeah.
And so, and neither was Allegri, because Italiano was the first choice.
Yeah.
So we're talking 2 second choices, at least second choices, because Paratici was the first choice, and then they wanted D'Amico. I mean, Theyve was way way down the line.
Circled back to Theyve. Theyve wasn't even, like you mentioned, they were like, oh yeah, they'll just interview a guy because they interview multiple people, and after interviewing multiple people, they're like, oh, okay, maybe he's like third. If we could get these other 2 guys, we prefer hiring them. They couldn't do it. This is where the whole thing gets very fascinating, and where people were very skeptical of, and I think it was across the entire fan base, and we know it. And what Matt just alluded to was Theyve and what his role is, right? Because we talked a little bit about this before we started recording. Was there's a difference between it is very funny because they didn't have a sporting director. It's not funny. They didn't have one, though. And there's some people out there that thought having a sporting director is overstated. You didn't really need one. All bullshit.
Yeah, Martino, can I ask you, why didn't have one? Why didn't they have one?
Yeah, which is the point that I'm getting
what they
to
forgot
right now.
You think they forgot? They didn't know?
Because of this person. This person is the one, and I don't even mean to say this in an unprofessional way. He is a parasite. He's a parasite for the club that is ruining things. And I think he is such an egomaniac that to have the ego this man has, in my opinion, is that he makes Zlatan look like he's humble. Because of all the things that he says and does, for the audacity of, right, if we go to Zlatan's initial comments when he gets hired, and he's the one who goes out and publicly says, and we know his job is bullshit to begin with because he doesn't even have a defined role. Because he is an advisor for Redbird, whatever that means. It's a very vague title. And we've seen Boban call him out for it and ask him what his job is, and many other pundits within Italy. The point is, he goes out with a statement that says, I'm the one who calls the shots, right? More or less, I'm the one who's making all these decisions. He was happy to stand up on a pedestal and say, oh, Morata was me. I was the one who convinced him. I'm the one who called him up on the phone. I was like, you have to come here. Zlatan convinced me immediately. Okay, so Zlatan is the one running the market. Is he the director here? Is he the one making the decisions? Then Furlani has to come out and say himself, I am the one who has final say. So not only is the disconnect great with the CEO and an advisor who works for the company that hired you to have the CEO role, that disconnect right there says everything. But of course, the initial joke, and again, not a disrespect to Di Ottavio, who was he as a sporting director? It was literally like if you're sitting in a company, right, and you're in a entry-level role, you work the same job, you have the same responsibilities, but somehow you got a promotion where the label of your job has changed, but your role, your day-to-day did not. And that's exactly what it was. They completely exaggerated and lied of what Di Ottavio would do. As a sporting director, have you ever seen somebody with that title do less or have less involvement?
No, because all they needed a DS for was because a team needs to have one. They must have one.
Yeah.
So there you go. There you have him. Actually, he left pretty pissed off with Ibrahimovic for the whole Abate situation. I mean, he witnessed things.
Job.
Yeah, he witnessed things that they didn't appreciate too much. But the point is, I mean, let's be plain and simple. After a season like this, everybody stays in its place. I mean, nobody pays.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, the point is why? And it's a big company. It's not like you're running a small, family business. You're running a huge business. Why does everyone stay at his own place after a season like this? Because they're happy. They're just achieving what they want to achieve. They're happy with what they're doing. And it's not being fourth or third or second or ending up first. They're happy. That's why nobody pays. And that's why they get rid of all people who has something to do with sports, with identity, with history. They get rid of these people. They don't want them around. They want to be free to run the business the way they want to run the business. They're happy with it. They're making money. The point is, we don't see how they're making money, but they're making money. If we dig deep into the 100 mil, 90 mil on services, we might find out how they're making money. When they sell Tijani Reinders, we might find out how they're making money because they don't need to. Sport-wise, I mean, from a football standpoint, they don't need to, but they want to. They have to, because they do. In order to run the business the way they want to run the business. And Tare and Allegri, they're there doing an assignment. They're just doing what they have to do. It's like, okay, instead of us buying players that we won't resell because they're worth nothing. Help us out, Tare. Just get us players worth 20 mil, and in a couple of years they'll be worth 40.
Yeah.
And obviously they didn't want to have this responsibility. They took it off their shoulders now. They can run business the way they want to run the business. But where is the project? Nobody spoke about the project. Nobody says a word about what are we going to do next year? How are we going to approach the market? What are we going to do? Is it going to be more Italian players, less Italian players, prospects? Are we going to have 40-year-old players? What are you doing? What are you doing? How are we going to get back on the track? And what does getting back on the track mean to you? And you mentioned making mistakes. Okay, all right. What mistakes? What were the mistakes that were made?
Yeah.
Who made them? Yeah, who made?
You're talking about Furlani's comments, by the way, just for people who might be confused.
Yes, but at the same time, Furlani is the same as Tare and Allegri. He has an assignment. Correct. He doesn't run the show himself. It's not his show. It's not his business. There's a lot of himself. There's a lot of ego mania over there. Of course there is, but he's doing a job. I mean, he's doing his job, and he stays there because the singers are happy with what he's doing. But we know for sure that Cardinale is not happy with him.
Of course, because he's the one losing out the most in terms of finances.
Yeah, of course, because but he's a weak point. He's the weak side.
What did he do? The loan was changed up. The vendor loan was extended. And they changed it up where he'll have more time to pay it off, which insane. And it's funny to me too, because I bring this up to Matt and I bring this up many times on the podcast. And I know they obviously don't care because the amount of money that they're clearly getting at this moment in time, it doesn't bother them enough to make drastic changes because the money is decent enough for them. Despite the fact that if they had an incredibly well-ran project, they would have even more money because that means the team is even more valuable.
Yeah, and but that's a liability they don't want to run. They don't like liabilities.
The other point is what Jerry said about Inter and how he said they went bankrupt.
Yeah,
which
Martino, is they're running a very safe business, or they're running a business in a very safe way.
Yeah,
they want to build a stadium without spending €1, not even €1. It's all on loan. Everything.
Yeah.
And nobody builds a stadium with everything on loan. They put, like 40 mil, 400 mil up front, 300 mil up front, whatever, like 40%, 30%, whatever the number is.
Yeah.
But they don't do it like this. They don't want to spend anything. They're not spending anything for the market too, for transfers.
They were happy. They were happy to sell Tijani Reinders at the point in the summer they did, so they could say, "See, look, we have a profit. Look, we made money this year." That's all it is.
Which the important.
They're running a business. They just running a business. They don't care. They don't care. It's the safest business. There's no money up front, and it's all income. That's what AC Milan is. It's
in a way too, and then we can keep going forward. But like, it's when that whole not the cliche, but the whole adage, the words go, they've showed you who they are. Believe them. Like, how many summers have we seen from them, right? How many things on the market? How many times have we seen them make the unpopular decision? And despite the hysteria, despite all the protests outside the 125th anniversary, at the end of the season, throughout the season, we've made it very clear what our feelings are towards them. And these people have been put in charge for a reason, because if they acted to Enrico, your point, like emotionally, I know you say you try to like remove that and act very like almost neutral in a way. And it's tough to do that for a club you love, but when you have no attachment to the team and I put someone in charge to do a job, to your point, they're not going to feel one way or the other. They're going to be like, hey, you brought me in here to not spend a crazy amount, to turn a profit, to have the balance sheets look good, and we present that to our investors and stakeholders. That's what you brought me in to do, and that's what they're doing, and that's what their aim is every year. So until that mindset or that group or personnel changes, what makes any fan believe they're going to change their ways and they're all of a sudden going to be like, you know what, we're going to spend money now? Because even if they do spend a little bit more money, it comes at the cost of a top player, just like it did a couple summers ago. So for people to say, look, they're spending their money on Vlahovic, Santiago Jimenez, all these guys, well, wait, why are Milan spending money? They didn't spend money. They sold the top player.
Yeah, but how much money did they really spend last year? They spent 12.5 mil.
Nothing.
12.5 over 2 sessions. 12.5.
Yeah.
That's how much they spent.
They didn't commit anything with the loans for Felix. That's all non-committed.
It's the safest business ever. To run AC Milan like they do is the safest business ever. Yeah. It's just income and income and income, and they do things blatantly in our face. Hey, they don't care. They don't care. Nobody speaks. Nobody says a word. Nobody.
Yeah. They all have this revolving door of spokesmen. One week it's Scaroni making comments on things, and he's all of a sudden you're like, okay, wait, where did he come from again? Why is he saying these things? And then Furlani comes out of nowhere when it's like they take turns of like, oh, you go up there, you take the shit in the face, and then if not, and it dies out, then someone else will go up and go talk. Like it's your turn.
Yeah,
it's a revolving door of a lack of accountability that. You know, quite frankly, they don't have to have a accountability because their jobs are not threatened. The only accountability that they want to take is less flack from protesters and fans and supporters that are out there that get angry. That, to your point, and what you were saying about the Monza protest is like, and this is why it makes so much sense. Why did it have to take just a Coppa Italia loss for things to change? Because we all know, even if they were to have won that, how does that drastically change the project? How does that change or fire or get rid of anybody when they're still in the same position of power? And to the point of hiring someone like Elliotts, sure, more resources than Lazio, but more resources than Lazio doesn't mean that that's a lot of resources for a club like Milan. They don't. This is a joke. How many times I love to see people that are always like, oh, well, net spend, and, you know, they spent this amount of money after they sold these players. No, listen, they were able to spend money because they finally made the Champions League for the first time in years. And they were doing it consistently. And they made the Champions League semifinal. And what I would also like to tell people that is very, 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 very important over a year-to-year basis is the cost of your squad. They are still salary capped. Remember years ago when they made the exception for Zlatan, was the only exception. We're 6 million, right? Whatever. They extended Rafa. he got an extension. He got a pay increase to 6 million because he's such a huge asset for them. Whatever, it's nothing, right? 6 million euro is what they took Tammy Abraham on loan for the wages. If we look at a year-to-year basis of who we compare our wage bill to, it should be Juve and Inter. They're not even close to Juve and Inter on a year-to-year basis with cost of squad. They're in the category of Napoli. Even Roma had a higher wage bill for quite some time until they recently dialed it back. This is where they're actually competing.
Why is that?
Well,
why do they hate salaries that much?
Because salaries on a year-to-year basis, to actually answer the question, because I know the answer, is that it costs more money on a year-to-year basis.
Because that's what you really spend
your money
on every year. Right. That's the money that goes out, and they hate that. That's why when they loan a player, when they sell a player on loan, they do it, and they don't want to spend not even a penny of their salary. It's all on the other team.
Yeah.
It's all on the acquiring team.
The counterparts with like the rumor of Leao and Bayern. Like, oh yeah, we would consider taking a player back, but everybody gets paid too much. We can't do that. You have to pay for it if you want to send us.
And they never want counterparts like players. Never. Why? Because they cost money. Because they have different agreements. Because they come from teams where they have, a salary agreed on, and they don't want to pay for that. And I think with Roma, I think they split Abraham. I think
they wouldn't surprise me if that was the case.
That's why they hate salaries. That's how they run the business. It's plain and simple. You just have to look at it. Mm-hmm. It's plain and simple. All they do, and it's just running a business the safest way possible. It's like, okay, no money up front, nothing. It's all income. And then we can say here 2-3 years, maybe build a stadium. They're not going to build a stadium. They could build a stadium.
So I think this would fall in perfectly if we want to transition to the short and long term of the club, because this was one of the topics that we mentioned months ago of I think you had mentioned a possibility of potential investors this time of year at the end of the economic year. It doesn't seem like that's the case.
It cannot be the case.
Well, yeah.
Even if they had a partner ready to come in, they couldn't finalize it because of the investigation.
Okay, so perfect with this then.
Yeah,
so the investigation relative to how much longer Redbird will hold on is Redbird going. Just.
I mean, Redbird is the weak side. So if anyone leaves, I think it's going to be them. It's not going to be Elliott. Elliott they're going to stay for at least. Well, I say it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's pretty clear. The stadium will be the turning point
of ownership again.
Yes. If they go for San Donato, once San Siro fails, and I hope it fails.
Okay.
With all my heart, I hope it fails. Because that means getting rid of Scaroni. Who's just, grabbing both of them by their necks and,
So go into that part of it, because we had mentioned a little bit. You're saying Scaroni is
I think it's got a smoking gun.
So elaborate on that a little bit. So
I can't, but I think Scaroni has a smoking gun. I think he's the reason why a perfectly useless guy keeps his position within the team for 10 years now. 8 years.
Yeah.
And
this is what I've heard from people within the club saying, there's a little quote. They have told me, I don't know what he does.
Exactly. Nobody knows, but he's there. And as he's running the San Siro show, that's his business.
So this latest San Siro show.
I can tell you for sure. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
San Siro is not Elliotts' business. San Siro is not Redbird's business. They both wanted San Donato. He was going on full speed until Jerry Cardinale told him, I have no money. to build the stadium. There's no money. Basically, he tricked them into believing that he had the money, but he didn't have the money. So that's where Scaroni saw a huge opportunity. And he stormed in, with cavalry and Sala and politics, everything. But once it fails, because it will fail, and I'm pretty sure that something will happen soon that would make it fail completely, miserably, then Scaroni's out of the picture. Once Scaroni's out of the picture, the investigation gets out of the picture. It's a miracle. Both out of the picture. And then that's when a new partner might come in. It might be July, it might be August, but something will change.
So I saw something regarding this. Sorry, Sant'Angelo. Jump in a moment with this. So Felix Raimondo, I believe is his name.
Felice Raimondo, yes.
He discusses a lot of this. It's not always transcribed and translated into English, but he does a great job of breaking things out. I believe he's a lawyer or an attorney who knows a lot about this stuff regarding the projects with the stadiums. So the current one, correct me if I'm wrong, is what they're trying to do that you think is going to fail and you hope fail is the renovation and owning of San Siro itself. Correct?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes or no. There's a lot going on.
Shocker. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, we'll get to this once once it happens. We'll get to this, but it will happen. I think it will happen. They're not gonna. If I had to bet money on San Siro, on the San Siro project, I'd probably bet a very high amount of money on because it will give me a lot of money. Well, actually, I will bet a small amount. It will give me a lot of money. But the point is, when he asked me about short and long term with Elliott, then I think it's the San Donato project. If they reopen the San Donato discussion, the talk, if they do it alone, then Elliott gets out of the picture soon. If they
Who does this alone, by the way? Sorry.
Well, if Elliott goes for San Donato alone,
gotcha,
without Inter,
okay,
without Inter, then they don't want to build it. They just want to sell the project. They just want to sell the
like you're saying like a new owner comes in and says, okay, well, you have the
everything sorted
for the new stadium.
Yes.
We'll
you got everything sorted.
Yeah,
just take it from here, and you got everything sorted. You can land your first stone in no time.
Which is a much more lucrative sort of club to buy at that point, right? Because you don't have to go through all the bullshit.
Yes, but if they take Inter with them, and that's an option. That is an option. If they take not in, I wouldn't say Inter, Oak Tree with them.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that Oak Tree's plan is to stay in command for 2 years tops. They don't plan to be, in charge of Inter for any longer than 2 years. So that's what upsets me the most, that all these decisions are being made, but by people who are going to be out of the picture like in no time. And then they're taking decisions that will affect us forever. If they want to do the stadium with Inter, if we want to do San Donato with Inter, then we're seriously doomed. Because it means that they want to build it. And to build it, it's 2030 at least.
So, yeah, I mean, Elliott has two options here, realistically. And they know this. Keep milking the cow. That is giving them more money, right? Because they could have, again, there was InvestCorp and there was Redbird. InvestCorp pretty much takes Elliott out of the picture entirely, and they're done. They flipped. They made their profit. They got everything from Young Hong Lee. They invested their money. It made sense. But with this, they keep their board seats. they still technically own the club because Jerry is in deep shit with money, and that's why he, changed up his loan to buy himself more time to do things with that. And to your point, it signals that if they are willing to invest in the stadium, it is highly unlikely that they're doing that to just build it for somebody to flip it, right? Because for them, they're still staying in the picture if they're building it.
Not if they're alone. Not if it's
Well-
just Elliott. They're not going to build it. That's why they wanted Redbird in the first place.
And that is also why InvestCorp and other, I guess, ownership groups were skeptical of doing that because they didn't want to do it on Elliott's terms. They'd rather purchase everything themselves.
There you go.
Sucks.
But if they do it with Oaktree, then we're doomed. It means Elliott for at least 2030. So it means I'm going to give up.
Which
on
is
AC
so bizarre, Matt, because, and Enrico, because Elliott was actually like investing money at first. And they were like, I didn't hate what Elliott were doing until COVID happened. And then they were like, well, okay, here's our excuse. Dial back. We're making a salary. Because we remember Leonardo had a lot to work with. And he did terrible. But there was not, it's not like, if you look at like whatever the past 10, 15 years of money invested with Milan, arguably, I think the most money that was spent was the summer of Leonardo. I know what happened in 2017 with Lee Young-hung and Fasobelli, but Leonardo under Elliott they didn't shy away from money. And then even then the next year with Maldini and them, there was also money spent. I just found it very interesting, I guess, that they saw COVID and they saw that window and they're like, okay, yeah, financial restrictions, FFB, we don't have to spend as much. We just realized is the way it came across to me, actions wise. I don't know, Matt, whatever, jump in. I know you haven't spoken much.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you guys pretty much covered most of it.
It's so tiring. I know.
Which is honestly like the reason, obviously, that's why we got Enrico on here, because there's things that he touched on, perspective that he touched on that, you don't really kind of tend to think, in the day-to-day happenings of the market, coach, director, the stadium has been kind of like something that fans have always had that sort of allure for. And like that they've yearned for like the new stadium because they know what the stadium presents, right? Like long term. And we all know that when Jerry came in with Redbird, the stadium was like that kind of like the crown jewel
the
thing.
Selling
Like,
point.
if we had just obtained that stadium, we could hang our entire dynasty or legacy as man ownership on that, right? We can do the thing that nobody else can do in Italy and the impossible, getting their own stadium, right? And for me, it kind of goes hand in hand with, this ownership. It's fitting, right? Like you're selling us these promises of stadium. We're going to spend, we're going to do all these sorts of things. And it's just empty. You just have an empty feeling towards them. Like anything this ownership does, whether it be with the signings of the personnel and management, whether it be with players, whether they say this in the media or that in the media, you always take it at face value. And you're like, it doesn't mean shit to me. It doesn't hold up because your actions have said everything about what your true intentions are with this club. And I think that that's always going to be, look at the comments. I mean, I know people are trolling, but look at the comments on Instagram, every single Instagram post. And that poor guy's just an admin. He's just there to post content. It's pretty clear that nobody's happy. Nobody's happy. Nobody has faith. Nobody has trust. They can go out there and they can bring in Lamine Yamal and people will be like, I have some doubts here. What's their end game? What are they going to do with this? That's how people feel. Every single move, every single action is always met with like, all right, yeah, but what's the end game? What's the angle? What's the catch? And that's how I feel. I mean, I know you guys touched on everything with the stadium, and then there's always that kind of like thing in the back of your head. Maybe we will get a stadium. Maybe if they all fail and everything else, but they get us a stadium and they F off back to America here in America, Redbird, at least we have something to put towards it. And we all know that stadium project is just that can is going to be consistently be kicked down the road. You mentioned 30-30. I don't even
30-30, yeah, we'll take 1,000 years.
I don't even see that truthfully. I don't even see that truthfully. Whether it be San Siro, whether it be Sant'Anato, whether it be a new stadium, whatever. Because how many how many blueprints have we seen, guys? In 2017, new stadium blueprint posted on their official social media platforms. Then we hear, oh, we got this one. Look, we got San Donato, agreements reached. Look, it's all false promises. It's all fictitious BS nonsense. Until we see something like on the field, when it comes to results, when it comes to the market, when it comes to success, people are always going to assume the worst. They're always going to assume ulterior motives. They're always going to assume that the end result is going to be a bad one. That's how I feel. I hate to say it. People want to probably hear us come on and talk about the players and how we're going to have a better season and how we got a sporting director and an actual winning coach. But truthfully, like, there's so many more moving parts to it. I will say this, just strictly if people want to hear more on the sporting side and that aspect of it, don't let this team finish outside top 4 again. Because if that happens, it's gonna get even worse than what we're seeing right now, in my opinion. Because everyone's gonna want to leave. You're not gonna want to have players of the great caliber come in, and everything kind of falls.
I mean, that's already. Yeah, but that's already like done. That's already
everything's driven on the sporting results. We all know that. At the end of the day, guys, if you have a losing product, and you have a product that can't perform, and a product that consistently falls short, who's going to come in and want to buy this club and get a stadium and do all these? It's all money. How long did it take for Milan to get to a position in more recent years to achieve some of the things they had to achieve? Right? You consistently Champions League, do all the things we know. So
forgive me, Matt. I don't share the same feeling about this.
That's fine. That's what
because when if that fails, then the business fails.
Yeah.
And they fail. And you'll find people more willing to buy something that had a value and now is lower on value. That's when you buy something.
Yep.
When it's half the price. And it's their problem.
Yeah.
That's their stupidity. But you find more people willing to buy something. Well, you don't know who's going to buy it, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, if you're obviously if something costs a lot of money, then the attire will be on, important businessmen. Let's put it this way. But at the same time, I'm not going to root for them. I don't root for this AC Milan. This is not AC Milan. This is AC Furlani. This is a different beast. I don't root for this. It's impossible to root for them. It's not. It's not even the colors. It's different. I don't share anything with them, and they don't share anything with me. But the point is, most of the fans, they'll be happy with Modric because to them it will reassure them. They don't like to be in a fight. They don't like to be in a battle. They just want to feel like
important.
Yeah, are you worried? Yeah, not really. Because they don't want to think, they don't want to reason, they don't want to discover things. What I do, it's seen with a lot of people admire it, but a lot of people hate it. They don't want to think. They don't want to know that, that something's rotten in Denmark. They don't want to know that. They hate that. They hate that feeling because it's football. And all they want to do is just to take football and relax. It's AC Milan. We go to the stadium. We buy the shirt. We buy the jersey. No, you don't go to the stadium. You don't buy the jersey. You don't feed them money. Because they're leeches. They're doing what they do best. And it's a trick. And they know it's a trick. They know that we are weak. And at the end of the day, as long as we are fourth, I don't want to be fourth. You know why? Because that's a mediocre standpoint, and I don't want it. I want to win the league. I don't want to see other people win the league every year. I want to see myself in that position. I want a project. I want the project to be explained to me. I want you to convince me after 3 years of failures. I need you to convince me on how well you're working, of how good the project is. I don't want you to shut up and sell my best player as the first opening move of this, chess play of 2025, 26. I don't want that. I'm not going to root for you. Yeah, forget about me. I'll come back and root for AC Milan when you are gone, but you have to be gone because I don't want you around. You're ruining my faith. You're ruining my pleasure. My way of relaxing and getting distracted. You ruined it all. How can I bloody forgive you for this? Why would I want to be fourth? Because you can make more money after all the money you're making on our expenses? No, forget about it. No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to root for you. You might as well fail for me. You might as well recede for me. I'll be happy. As long as you fail, it proves you that if you want to run this business, you have to run it differently, and you're not able to run it differently because the only way you can run it is this way. So get out, sell, or you lose money.
Yeah, because they're playing a very dangerous game, I think. Very dangerous game. That if Allegri, Tare backfires, I mean, and again, Magnan and Teo are 95% leaving, in my opinion. And then you're really just down to Leao and to what Matt's point was, who wants to come here with that sporting project. So then
And
you're
who wants to stay?
Yeah.
Who wants to stay? Yeah.
Nobody wants to stay. And that means someone like Max Allegri, even if he does do a good job, why does he want to stay if this is the bullshit?
Why? Because this is the only team that lets him get fourth without sacking him.
I don't, in terms of backing him in a project, I already think he's seeing the writing on the wall and how they run things.
No, because if Allegri gets fourth, they'll open champagne bottles.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's the thing. Do it at Inter. Do it at I don't know, Naples. They'll bloody sack you. He'll get sacked. That's the issue. See what the issue is?
Yeah,
is how mediocre the whole environment is how toxic the whole environment is. And that's why we attract trainers like Allegri. They don't think of, they're not here to make us better. They're here because they have 5.5 million reasons plus 2 to be here for 3 years.
When do you, to finish up the episode then, when do you think a resolution in terms of and I know you kind of like alluded to it because a lot of it is centered around the stadium project, but if you were to have to guess on when things subside in terms of when this project situation will resolve itself, when do you think because we have been through this yo-yo bullshit of this guy owns the team, this person's running it. No club in the world has gone through this, and especially at this stature of a club that has had changes in ownership and management and direction of where the club is going. Manchester United, there's been one change of ownership. So I don't really want to hear that Man United has been going through. It's not the same. They just simply have to be run by smart people, and a lot could change. Milan's situation is totally different in how it works in Italy and how you're able to raise money, build a stadium, all that sort of stuff, all those different factors. When is it going to happen that, I guess, the ideal ownership from what everybody, hears and talks about is InvestCorp would have been, if InvestCorp came in right after they won the Scudetto, who knows where Milan is at today? Totally different stratosphere of expectations. So when do you really think like Elliott is finally like, okay, enough's enough. We filled our stomach with this. We have enough money at this point. If we just keep on trying to do things like we did with Redbird, it's kind of go nowhere in terms of making that much more money. because I
Yeah,
think there
exactly.
is an end to this, into what they're
There
doing.
is.
For now,
It's when-
they can make plenty of money, but eventually
It's
they're gonna have to sell because they can't do this forever with someone like Jerry.
Well, they can find solutions. They're what they're good at, finding new solutions to stay in the business, which is not why Elliott chose us in the first place. It's not their prerogative to manage teams. They take teams who are in danger and they help them get back on their feet.
Stabilize
That's what they do, and then they leave. And we are the exception. We are their exception. We are a project for them. But as long as we are a project, they might want to leave the project if the project goes south. And the only way that it goes south is from an economic standpoint, from a financial standpoint. So they have to fail. It has to turn into a bad business. That means no people at the stadium. That means no jerseys, no official merchandising. That means protesters. That means turning the show into a shit show, which is a shit show already on the pitch. It means, that's why you cannot root for them. And that's the only time, that's the only moment when they will think, we might want to leave. Because next year is going to be a bloodbath. So we'll sell. And if we stay in charge for 2 more years, then we'll have to put money from our pockets, which we don't want to do.
Yeah.
And they will ruin the business. So we might sell it. And they're not going to sell it when the business is this low.
Yeah.
Responding to what we were talking about, discussing before with Matt. Of course, they're not going to let it sink. They will sell it when, it's going like this, when it's trending negatively. So let's keep the negative trend. I'm more than happy. But let San Siro sink first. And then every single move will force them to make a decision. And every decision will be, are we staying or are we leaving? And if we're staying, how are we staying? And if we're leaving, who are we leaving it to? But to find buyers is not that hard. But we have to get lucky.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the one small positive, is that at the end of the day, this is still a sleeping juggernaut and a giant. That the evidence is obvious with how shitty things have been in recent years, that there is still that much money and revenue to have been made behind a team that sets mediocre standards and expectations, that they're able to still generate, which makes it all the more frustrating because it shouldn't have to be this way.
No.
And I understand why they don't want to further invest in the project, but they are so stupid that we see the Los Angeles Lakers get sold for $10 billion yesterday. If you simply invested in AC Milan the way, Juve has those resources and money, they do it poorly, don't get me wrong. But if resource-wise, if you were to put money into this, and we saw what they did, just one Champions League semifinal in 18 years, what the buzz was. How do you not invest further to make so much more money because you're that much more valuable, because your squad's that great? And we know why. It's just, I think, if the right person actually has good intentions to invest, your money is worth that much more, because that's how they got sold in the first place. It's because they turned it around with a great project.
Yeah.
Because it was worth that much more.
Martino, to win is a liability. Sports is a liability.
Yeah.
Performing in sports is a liability. So they took the sports out of AC Milan. It's as simple as that. We should put it back, in first position where he has to be. There's no other way, and they're not going to change. It's not like they're going to change. And you said it right. It doesn't have to be this way. It didn't have to be like selling Tijani. We could have had a great market anyway.
Yeah.
And could have, if you just wanted 3 really good players, and then you extend Mike and Theo.
What are we a healthy team for?
Yeah. To flip a profit.
What's the use? What is the use?
Exactly. When's the flip of the profit then? Then why? They're basically on a treadmill of their own. They could make so much more money in another way. I think you're right about the stadium, though. I know Matt has limited on time, so I don't really want to continue this any further because we could
I
go
will
on. For
continue
another
this
2
another time.
Well, listen, I think a ownership change is still. I still believe within the next 18 months, something is drastically going to change in terms of that. I think it's just a matter of time. They can't keep going in this situation with the stadium. It just reminds me so much of Pelota and Roma. I just don't see how they're going to be able to manage this. But yeah, Enrico or Matt, do you have any final points or anything else before you have to jet out of here and we wrap this
No,
up?
I just feel sorry that I didn't want to ruin the dream to Matt. I mean, it's
No,
just,
no. He's
yeah.
If anyone's
want to-
optimistic, it's oddly me. So
I didn't mean to come out, hard or just
no.
no.
Yeah,
Santangelo
heavy.
is very pessimistic these days.
That's what we're here for. We're here to give people, the listeners, the viewers, different perspective, and you're bringing over your wealth of knowledge. We're having the conversation. Like, this is what it's for. At the end of the day, I think it's we have one shared common love and one shared common goal to see Milan back to where they want to be. So it's no big deal. Like, I'm Martino and I are really appreciative, and you taking the time to come on, and we hope our audience, our listeners, and everyone that's gonna view this and listen to this, you digest it, take this all in, because I think these are the conversations that I love having, Enrico, Martino, is because the fact that the market's constantly changing. Players, what this player does, what that player does, but I think like the bigger picture, the more crucial elements and big items are a lot of what we've kind of unpacked here. So thank you Enrico for coming on. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. It's my pleasure. It's not my first time over here, and every time it's been a pleasure. So yeah, that is not going to change, and I'm sure it's not going to change, and even the next time I'll be around. So thank you.
Hopefully in better terms for the club. Again, everybody, if you haven't already, Enrico's channel is in Italian, so if you want to take some Italian lessons.
There's YouTube translation now. There's dubbing.
Yes, well, actually, that is true. Yeah. How accurate is it? I haven't really used it as much.
Yeah, I just did it today. I just switched. I just flicked that thing, and I got dubbing from today. Yes.
So there you go. So if you're more interested again in the Italian perspective, and so many things, and we mentioned this the last time you were on here, so many things literally get lost in translation, or things fall through the cracks that you don't actually get in terms of English commentary and English knowledge of what's going around surrounding the team. Again, Enrico's channel is fantastic for that. You can also watch the episode of the live that he joined Stevie P of Milan Weekly podcast, which was a very fun and informative podcast, because Stevie is very much like us over here at that Milan podcast, sharing the same ideologies. That's why I'm not surprised we all connected on some level and agree on so many different things, because we have the same ideas for what we think the club should be. So again, the YouTube channel is right there. It's been on the ticker on the bottom. Enrico, we appreciate your time so much once again. It's always great conversation. And yeah, any other final comments? I know you kind of just touched on some stuff there. Anything new coming with the channel, or besides the translation?
No. Just hope. Just hoping for for better days. Thank you very much. I'm appreciated and love being here.
Appreciate your time. Yes.
Thanks a lot,
Angelo. We appreciate your time, because we know you're super busy these days. Again, you guys can go and follow him at Matt_Santangelo, at EC Milan Bros, and again, everywhere for that Milan podcast. Matt, final comments?
Yeah, I just want to thank the viewers, listeners, everyone that continues to support myself, Martino, and this channel. Hope you guys enjoyed the new rebrand. Wanted to give a little bit of like a facelift, a new look going into the new season. Hopefully some restored optimism.
We spent more money than Milan already.
Yeah. Hopefully some restored optimism. You see a new look Milan podcast. We're going to give you guys some different flavor. And obviously we hope to have more guests on, like Enrico, who not always are going to have the same perspectives and viewpoints as Enrico just mentioned. We're not always going to agree on everything and align at every single point, but different perspective, different insight, analysis, and things that you can't find anywhere else. That's our goal. So thank you guys for supporting us, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yes, and I might add that you guys did it in a mature way, unlike whatever. Won't get into that, but we appreciate it. Once again, Martino Puccio, you can follow me everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, here on the YouTube channel, our other YouTube channel that we upload the shorts, that Milan podcast, and again on Twitter at Martino Puccio. So other than that, we thank you once again, Enrico. We thank all the followers, listeners, subscribers, and we'll see you next time. Bye.